A spiritual awakening is mandatory.
Life can be a contradiction.
But it doesn't have to be a lie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Contradiction, a weekly series to discuss different topics that affect our lives, affect the way that we think, and hopefully provides us with some type of balance within the contradiction that is our lives. Roxy, Lopez, and myself created this series over the summer, and we're very happy to share this third episode with you. Today, we are going to be talking about a really nice topic, people helping people. The good, the bad, the what is the public say about it, what do we think about it, and the beautiful outcomes that we see from people helping people. So without further ado, let me welcome my partner in Contradiction, Roxy Lopez. Hi, Roxy. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. And it's nice to be here. This is a great subject and a great way for us to really examine the difference. What does it mean, people helping people? What does it mean? You know, there are so many different strategies, and of course, there's contradiction in all of this as well. For instance, an example of what helps people and what doesn't help people. I come from the side of understanding. For instance, I have dealt with people in rehabilitation for drugs and alcohol since 1986. And I have to say that some of the inspiration that is taught to the family members when they have an addict in the family is the word enable.
Yeah.
And that word, again, is a contradiction in itself. Enable can be a good thing. Enable can be a bad thing. It depends on what you are enabling. And if you have a teenage son in your home who's using drugs, and you give him free shelter, and you give him free meals, and you continue to live in denial, let's say, so that person, that addict, can continue buying drugs and doing what they're doing because you're enabling them. You're part of the problem. We become part of the problem that we so want to heal. And isn't that ironic? That is a contradiction. And so with people helping people, what happens in that scenario is that others come in to assist the parents to show them how they're enabling their son, let's say, to continue destroying his life. Then there's free will and free choice, right? So you have to teach the parents tough love and what is allowed and what isn't allowed. Or the son has to now get a job and pay rent and pay for that cell phone he carries around calling drug dealers with.
Right.
Eventually they run out of money, or they go somewhere else, or choose the life that they want. But now you're not, as the parents, part of the problem. You are now not enabling. But you might say to me, oh my gosh, Roxy, I could never do that. My son is my son. And if I put him out on the street, what if he dies? That would be the most horrible thing I could ever think of. So I can't do it. So I'm just going to live with this situation. I'm just going to live with the problem. How unfortunate for both of you, for all of you, that you would just continue to live in the problem while you watch your son die. Because that's what drugs do to people. They kill you eventually. And you're not all you can be, right? When you're just, maybe shooting up heroin or something. That's not a good state of mind for anybody. So what do you do with the people helping people? Gravitate towards people or organizations that you trust or you're involved in that are set up to help people who want help. All right, on that level. For instance, volunteer your time at a soup line. Volunteer your food. Go through your cupboard. A friend of mine just told me yesterday that when they were moving, she put together like her whole, pantry pretty much, so she didn't have to move it. Went through, looked at all the dates, made sure that it was okay, put them in boxes, and took it down to the food bank. Okay, that's a way to contribute, not to the problem, but to people who are in between jobs, people who lost a home, or whatever. The last thing is don't judge people. That man on the street, Bernard and I talked about this. That man on the street who has a little sign that says, homeless, need food and shelter. Don't judge that person. About 2 months ago, I actually stopped and had a long conversation with a man here in Arizona during the heat of the summer. And I sat down and talked to this man because he and his dog had been outside of the shopping center every single day. Every time I went there, he was out there with his sign. And at first I judged him because I thought, he must be just getting money together for, alcohol or something. Come to find out, I sat down and talked to the man. Not only was he clean and sober 14 years, and believe me, we exchanged some of that. There's no way this man knew about sobriety the way he did, and the program and AA and all of it. Not only that, but how he lost a really good job as an engineer, and the series of incidents that happened to him that landed him on the street. And he had a plan, and he's very, very smart. And his dog was well fed, and people had come by giving him like 5 nights in a hotel room to get him out of the heat, and his dog donated dog food. And this man's got a plan, and he showed me his money in his little, he had this container, looks like, where he has what's it called, like a ice chest, but he had the money in, and he showed me, and he had it all written down, his plan of saving X amount of dollars so he could get an apartment, so he can have an address, so he can get a job, and whole 9 yards. And I just thought, wow, man. And I asked him, could I do a documentary on him? So I'm going to do a documentary on this man and his life. He gave me permission. So you see, people helping people, it might not always come in the package that you think, but where I think that we make our biggest mistakes is we judge people. And as we talked about in our last series about money, it's all about attitude. Don't just assume that people are stupid or drunk or on drugs or losers, because that comes back tenfold on ourselves. What does that say about me? And we get opportunity in being of service.
I couldn't agree more, Roxy. I feel that people are forgetting the beauty of people helping people. So many of us, especially involved in those that are involved in the left-right paradigm of politics, they have this idea that, the left they're just giving money to everybody, and these people on welfare are all on drugs, and they shouldn't be allowed to have cell phones or this and that. And then we have the other extreme where it does become an enabling factor. So there has to be a happy medium in there somewhere. The reality of it is that we need to be helping each other every single day. We must be a part of one another's life. The idea of the new paradigm is to look at the world as one human family, one tribe. We used to do a show together called Tribe for that very reason. We are one tribe. And if one of us is hurting, the entire spectrum of humanity is hurting. And let me just say this. One of the things, I'm going to quote Peter Griffin here. I'm going to quote Family Guy. What really grinds my gears, what does really grind my gears, is when people are hurting in your own neighborhood, when you have homeless in your own downtown, and you're sending money over to, I don't know, the latest cause du jour, whether it be in the Middle East or in Africa or in Europe or whatnot. It's great if you have $1 billion in your bank account. You can give 100,000 to your local community and 100,000 to the latest cause in Africa. But we must remember that if we're not taking care of our own, which is everybody, don't get me wrong. A great example was Hurricane Sandy. We saw Occupy Sandy take over. They made sure that everybody in their neighborhood was fed, was clothed, had water, and whatnot. But meanwhile, there were other areas that were affected, and people were completely ignoring that. Don't get me wrong, I love what Occupy Sandy did. I thought it was a very positive thing. But in the media, things get skewed, and people in New Jersey were forgotten, people in the Carolinas were forgotten, people along the path of, what was I think Haiti was affected horribly as well. No one talked about it. So let's remember, when people helping people, don't really go with what the media tells you you need to do. Or mainstream media. I know we're media, but we're grassroots media. Take care of one another. Take care of your family. You know, you have a cousin out there that's homeless. Come on. If you have a 5-bedroom home, make room for them. If you have a cousin or an aunt or a niece that is raising a child, doesn't have time, doesn't have the ability to feed that child, bring them a care package. It doesn't make you weak, and I think that's the point that I'm trying to make here. It does not make you a weak person in acknowledging that others are suffering. It does not make you a weak person in acknowledging and taking action to help those that may not have what you have, whether it be due to a crisis, whether it be due to a disaster, or whether it be due to bad choices in life. It doesn't make you a bad person to step up and say, I'm going to do something to help this person. Sadly, the norm is, and I come from the 80s, I remember Ayn Rand and everything she did to traumatize everybody. Only the fittest survive. Only the strong survive. You need to take care of yourself. Screw everybody else. Step on everybody to get what you want. We are beyond that. We are beyond that. That's why you're seeing the old political paradigms collapse. That's why you're seeing the economic paradigm collapse. And that's why you're seeing more and more people stepping up and becoming activists and doing programs like the one Roxy and I are doing today. We must get beyond that feeling of it's uncomfortable to talk about poor people. It's uncomfortable to see homeless people on the street. How many cities have made laws where people aren't allowed to be homeless? Or people aren't even allowed to feed the homeless in certain cities and municipalities. That is not the direction that humanity needs to go in. People helping people is something that is innate within all of us. People helping people is something that we are born with. When you're a child and you see your friend crying, you go over to them and help them. You don't run away and say, oh, she's crying, I don't want to talk to her. She's being negative. But yet now, sadly, due to, and I will say this, due to corporate new age marketing, oh, she's being negative, I don't want to be around her negative energy. Or thanks to the media. Oh, these people are taking us down. She's bringing down the neighborhood. Do you see her? She's so poor. She's driving around in that crappy car. She's bringing down our property value. you know, it's funny, but it's so sad. It's so sad, and we must transcend this idea that helping other people is a bad thing. We must transcend this. Reach out to those that are less fortunate. Go out and talk to someone. It was funny that, when I was a part of Occupy Roanoke, we used to do a soup kitchen. Every weekend we had a soup kitchen. And it's been a year now since we shut it down, unfortunately, due to internal politics and cold weather, actually. But I can still go walking through downtown, and do you know that the same homeless people are still there, but they come up and they'll give me a hug, they'll give me a smile, they'll let me know they miss me. Yeah, once in a while they'll ask for money too much, but I think that's a part of that's a part of the mentality of, give me money, that they're accustomed to. But it's a wonderful feeling when I see a face that I gave a bowl of soup to last year, and they'll give me a hug and they'll be like, "Thank you for being there for us." That is people helping people, and that is the most nourishing, enriching thing that anybody could do for their spirit or for their soul. So, Roxy, how do we face this contradiction? How do we deal with this contradiction of people helping people programmed that helping people is a bad thing, or over helping people? Wherein lies the middle ground?
I think you find the need and then fill the need. And so if there is somebody who needs you, it could be to listen on the phone because they've been through something, horrible, whatever, and they just need somebody to listen. Be there for people. And, when you're of service, you actually get your own self out of your own bubble as well. I can't tell you how many times I personally have had problems in my own life, but then I had to go and serve somewhere, volunteer, and going and meeting with other people and sort of changing the channel is what it did. And then I felt so good. And when I came back to my own home, things got back in balance. My perception got back in balance. So being of service is actually serves you and serves them as well. It's tenfold. It's a wonderful thing, and you don't have to live in that contradiction of where should I do it? Where should you'll know where the need is, and you can plug into that need. It's very, very cool.
Something we need to remember.
Yes, yes, a
Well,
lot that is true. So again, we hope that we have inspired you to sort of sort through a few things, and remember,
life is a contradiction.
but it doesn't have to be a lie. We'll see you next week.
Bye bye, guys. From people helping people. So without further ado, let me welcome my partner in contradiction, Roxy Lopez. Hi, Roxy. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. And it's nice to be here. This is a great subject and a great way for us to really examine the difference. What does it mean, people helping people? What does it mean? There are so many different strategies. They have an addict in the family. Is the word enable.
Yeah.
And that word, again, is a contradiction in itself. Enable can be a good thing, enable can be a bad thing. It depends on what you are enabling. And if you have a teenage son in your home who's using drugs, and you give him free shelter, and you give him free meals, and of course, there's contradiction in all of this as well. For instance, an example of what helps people and what doesn't help people. I come from the side of understanding. For instance, I have dealt with people in rehabilitation for drugs and alcohol since 1986. And I have to say that some of the inspiration that is taught to the family members when
With some type of balance within the contradiction that is our lives, Roxy Lopez and myself created this series over the summer, and we're very happy to share this third episode with you. Today, we are going to be talking about a really nice topic, people helping people. The good, the bad, the what is the public say about it, what do we think about it, and the beautiful outcomes that we see.
a spiritual awakening is mandatory,
Life can be a contradiction.
but it doesn't have to be a lie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the third episode of Contradiction, a weekly series to discuss different topics that affect our lives, affect the way that we think, and hopefully provides us